I'd like to call this meeting to order, a regular meeting of the Village Board on Monday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom and also can be accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all village board members present, except for trustee Kaminsky, who is excused, and trustee Myers, who is also excused. At this time, I'll ask us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is President's Report. I don't have anything to report tonight, so we can go on to the next item, which is announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee and department reports, starting with committee reports and committee chairs with trustee Rick Miller.
Speaking for trustee Kaminsky, but Public Works will meet on this Wednesday, October 4th. And General Government and Finance will meet on Monday, October 16th.
All right, thank you. Trustee Hudson.
Public Safety will meet on Wednesday, October 4th in this room at 6:30 p.m.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to bring forward for announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee or department reports? Seeing there are none, we'll then go to the next item on the agenda, which is citizen input. If there's anyone within our audience or joining us via WebEx that'd like to come forward for citizen input at this time, you're welcome to do so. All I would ask is you come to the podium in the center of the room and state your name and your address for the record. If you're joining us via WebEx, please make the moderator known of your wishes to participate in citizen input so that we can log you in and get your voice heard. So if there's anyone that would like to come forward for citizen input, you're welcome to do so at this time. Push a button. The light goes off, you're on. No. There you go. Oh, had it. You had it.
I got
There,
it. You
I
got it.
got
Hold it. Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see everybody. All right. Do I have to keep holding it?
No.
Okay. Kevin Nash, West 140 North 10828 Country Air Drive. Couple of things. Since we've moved to the village in 97, the population has grown from around 11,000 to 21,000. In that time, we've built a new fire station, municipal building, library, and parks, all to facilitate the growth of our village. We've done a really good job. I believe that we've also been given the honor of being one of the best places to live by Money Magazine. And the icing on the cake to the village is that we will also have the distinction of having one of the best Oktoberfests in Wisconsin. And that was by AAA Magazine. So we're doing a pretty good job. People who live here love it here. Our growth hasn't been easy, but we continue to meet the challenges head on, I think. I went to the town hall meeting at the coffee house, and I went to the budget meeting last week. And how I heard the budget shortfall would affect the village was kind of eye-opening to a longtime village resident. I guess there's a couple of things that I just don't understand. There's things that we all want in the community outside of education, and I know that's the largest expense that we have is our educational system, but we want good safety, park and rec for the children in the community, we want a solid library, and we want solid financial oversight. Really, the two things that I'd like to mention are the things that I just can't get away from. The police, safety, and then of our department, and then also our debt. It was explained to me, and this is how I heard it at the meeting, where all the money comes from, where it goes. He had a really nice graph. The debt that we're currently under, that doesn't make sense to me. That in our current budget shortfall, that what we have, the way it was explained to me is that it's pretty much one of these things we can't get away from. It's there, and we have to pay it, and that's just the way that it is. But why do we keep adding to it? How are we allowed to keep adding to it? This is what I don't understand. In our current budget shortfall, we've decided to spend over $1 million for a property on Main Street in Germantown. $1 million. That's just the bare minimum. The thing about this property I don't understand, it's been for sale before. In 2018, it was for sale for $325,000. Then it actually went down to $315,000. Suddenly, in 2022, goes on the market for $749,000. And 2 weeks before this board decided to write an offer on it, it jumped another 33%. If you guys are going to sell real estate, let me know because I want in. All right. I don't understand how this property goes up 171% and now we're going to buy it under the current conditions we're in. If I'm under a budget shortfall at my house, if it looks really good, I can't afford it, I don't buy it. But now it's in that large chunk that says, hey, we have to pay for it. So I don't know what's going on. That just doesn't make sense to me. Okay. Now let's talk about the police. There's some things that I didn't understand about the police. You know, first of all, we grew so large that, and so much that we actually had to add for our public safety, we had to add full-time fire department, right? And I'm just going to be short, and I'm sorry. But here's the thing I don't think people understand, okay, is that under the current proposal, when they're going to take away the dispatchers, from what I'm understanding is that there's not going to be anybody at the police department at nights or on the weekends. Where do I go? Where does somebody go if they're being chased? You would think you'd go to the police department. There's not going to be anybody there. Do the residents really understand that? And I listened to Josh, who was very eloquent in how he explained everything and what everybody around the communities are doing. We're the gateway to Washington County. We've got all these glorious people coming up and down the I. And I know they never stop here to cause any problems, but on the weekends, we're not going to have anybody here. Are we really saving $300,000? How do we cut all these other things and yet we add for our own public safety fire department and now we're going to take these things away? That just doesn't make sense to me. So these are the questions that I have. It doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Light's got to be on, right?
No, light's got to be off.
Okay, I'm good. Okay. Steve Wozolowski. It's Wesolowski. My address is W169 North 10427 Pheasant Run in Old Farm. And tonight I wanted to give you the rest of the story about this land purchase that I'm hearing for the sewer utility wants the village board to make to negotiate the land on County Line Road for a new sewer lift station. Being a member of the the advisory utility committee, I had a discussion before Larry Radishek retired with him. And I don't know how many of you know this, but in 2022, Larry had a well thought out, Milkert and Rookie did a analysis of all our lift stations for capacity and for future planning. And I've read that document. I have it. I don't know how many of you have seen it or not. But tonight, what I've got in front of you, I want to direct you to, there's a 4-page document, and I really want you to look at the last page, which is a map, because I'm going to go through some highlights about this map that illustrates stuff. The other 9-page documents actually snippets from the full report that I just wanted to point out about 2 sewer lift stations. But it's quite interesting. And again, I understand this is closed door meetings on this topic. So I don't know what you're being told, but I want to tell you what I know about what we can do. So as we go, here are some of the highlights. The existing sewer lift station 6, that's on our map with the red colored star down on County Line Road. Right now, Milkert and Rookie did an analysis on that station, and they found that station is structurally, mechanically, and electrically in sound condition. The other thing about that station, capacity-wise, it's operating at 24% of its design capacity. 24%, a lot of room to bring more wastewater to that lift station. Okay. The other thing is, I think last year maybe there was plans for a mixed-use development down on County Line and Lannon Road. And I think that fell through, but that development would have to flow through that lift station eventually. And the interesting thing about that lift station is that as it sits right now, that 40-acre parcel that was going to get developed, that lift station can more than handle that development. No need to upgrade it, no need to do anything. It can handle that load. The problem comes in to be as more development may happen up Appleton Avenue, going up to Lannon Road, that extra development is not going to stress the lift station. The problem is that forced main, this orange line that goes from the station underneath the 41 and goes to Division Road. That's going to become undersized. The station can handle the load. Okay. Then that leads to another issue here, or questions. Lift Station 3, which is up by Maple there by Walmart. That station too could handle all the mixed use development that was proposed on Lannon Road and County Line Road. And in fact, how this all would work, everything eventually that's developed out in that direction is going to have to flow through Maple Road and Appleton, and then it flows down to Lift Station 6 and then gets pumped across the freeway. That's how all that new development would have to happen. The other thing though that nobody realizes is if that new development did occur on Lannon and Lannon and County Line Road, the Lift Station 3 could handle the load, but this big green line on my drawing, the lift station, the main from Lift Station 3 to Lift Station 6, undersized. We got a problem there. That's a $700,000 replacement cost that nobody's talking about. So I guess there is an alternative to purchasing land on County Line Road to replace Lift Station 6. And in fact, the Rupert and Milky engineers spell it out in their long paper that they provided to the village. And I talked to Larry about it and he said, Steve, we should look at that versus anything else. But Larry's gone now. And what that plan would be, is if you look at Lift Station 3 here, I've got a purple, a blue dashed line. And what can be done is everything from Lift Station 3 that goes there now and in the future, they recommend we pump it up Maple Avenue underneath the freeway to Lilac Lane. Because in Lilac Lane, we've got a big forced main that ends up going back to Old Farm Lift Station. That's about, I think it's a little over a mile and a half. They say, okay, they give a cost estimate of $2.4 million to do that. You're going to think, well, $2.4 million, but that solves any other issues we're going to have with any of our other lift stations. First of all, we got to buy the land for Lift Station 6. And I'm hearing goofy numbers, 700,000, $1 million. Let's not buy more land for $1 million when we don't have to do that as an option. So we can avoid that $1 million cost that we put towards the 2.4 million to put forced main in. The other thing is Lift Station 6 also would eventually need to have its pumps upgraded, which they estimated at about $170,000. We'd also have to replace that forced main from Station 6 going underneath the freeway to Division Road, $800,000 to do that. And again, we wouldn't have to buy the land. And the final thing is, again, we wouldn't have to do the replacement from Station 3 to Station 6. All total, all that work right there is probably going to be $4 to $5 million to the sewer utility. And the ratepayers are going to have to pay that versus doing just a simple forced main up Maple Road. So that's what I wanted to just bring to your attention. I know I hear this is all closed door meetings, but I'd ask you to keep these documents close to you if you go back in closed session to talk about this topic. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming forward. Does anyone else wish to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Yes, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. And I just have an observation. I think there's maybe a technical problem with item D on the agenda in the paperwork, which is the change order. I'm sure that the contents other than this one area is probably fine. And my main concern is for the young man whose name is written beside the engineer. To my knowledge, he's not an engineer. I don't believe, I think he's working through college still and working. And I would hate for him to be put into a situation where on public documents, he is being asked to misrepresent that he is an engineer, because that could affect his ability to get a license in a future career. I think that's an issue. I don't know who's asked him to do that, but it's not correct. I myself hold several licenses. Their boards do not like it when you say that you're an engineer or an architect or some other profession and you sign documents to that effect. So I think the paperwork should be removed and redone so that he is not put in that situation, because it could cause a problem for him in the future. And we have an engineer that's coming on board in a week or something like that. It may be more appropriate for that person to look at it, or, as I understood it, the administrator was going to be able to sign off things with your review jointly. So I would strongly suggest that if this document be changed. I listened to him do his presentation earlier. He did a fine job. I just feel that he is being put in a bad situation that we do not want to memorialize in a public document. That's my suggestion, is that you redo the paperwork. And if there's anything else that he's signed that is like this, it could be an issue for him in the future. Those are my 2 cents.
Thank you for coming forward. Does anyone else wish to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Hi, Doug Lohman, W180 and 9881 Rivers Bend Circle West. I'd like to talk to you about the Chamber of Commerce this evening, and I'd like to do it a little bit along the lines of comparison.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Loman,
Thank you.
Lima, Oscar, Mike, Alpha, November.
Thank you. You said that a couple of times.
Okay.
Thank you.
Where was, Chamber of Commerce, that's right. Yeah, about the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to do a little comparison for you. I grew up in Munising, Michigan. It's a very small town on the southern shore of Lake Superior, up in the Upper Peninsula. And I spent a little bit of time on the Chamber of Commerce website there today. Munising, Michigan, by the 2020 census, has a population of 1986. 1,986 people. Their Chamber of Commerce has their own building. They got a great big sign on it. It's on the busiest road in town, 2 blocks from the heart of downtown Munising, Michigan. They have 2 full-time employees. They have a full-time office manager, and then the CEO, the boss of the place. She's a PhD running their Chamber of Commerce. Their membership fees are less than membership fees here in Germantown's Chamber of Commerce. Our Chamber of Commerce, as most of you know, all of you should know, I hope anyways, that our Chamber of Commerce is in the basement of the bank. And their hours are dictated by the hours when the bank's open, you know. And we've got 1 employee and a part-time employee, you know, comparatively. You know, I'm just trying to build a disconnect, contrast, and compare here. We really need to present the image that we need a Chamber of Commerce out front and center where people can see, you know, that we do support business. You know, the phrase that comes to mind for me is that what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. So in that our actions by keeping the Chamber of Commerce down in that bank down there, you know, that's what it says to potential business people there, is that we're not taking it serious. It's not important enough for us. So I strongly recommend that we bring the Chamber of Commerce out of the bank basement and get them into a proper place. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Does anyone else wish to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Good evening, thank you. Scott Effley, W159 N10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. Couple comments. I should be able to keep it under the 3 minutes. These COW meetings, committee of the whole meetings,
Can you go slower with your address, please?
sorry, W159 N10514 Old Farm Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. The committee of the whole meetings are very important. We're talking about budgets. 3 people reach out to me from the community. I said, reach out to your trustee, but they asked me. Looking for the YouTube recording. Where is it? I asked Chairman or Administrator Krekel. He says we didn't record it. Really? We don't record budget meetings? You record them in 22 and in 21. I didn't go back any further because I was busy, but why would we not allow the residents who obviously have a vested interest in running this village with their taxpayer dollars, the ability to see what's going on in budget discussions? I am asking this board to make those, to have those meetings recorded at a bare minimum. We record village board, we record plan commission, we all know what we record. We need to record those meetings, okay? Yeah, the budget, we discussed 3 departments. Apparently, we're cutting all of them. The 3 departments that if you ask people in this village and really asked them and surveyed them, the 3 departments they like the most: library, rec department, and I'm going to call public safety a cut because you're moving dispatch. You are cutting their department. You may not like that I'm saying that, but that's absolutely the case, and we will not get the money back you think you're saving. Because when I saw the slide, it said, we're going to save $300,000, but Chief's he's got to hire 4 admin people that won't work. I swear to you, will not work for less than $20 an hour. It'll be more than that. Correctional officers make $26.50 at the county to start, and $18 you can flip burgers at Wendy's. So if you want reasonableness, you'll be paying $22 an hour, which 4 people, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, 2 weeks paid vacation, is about $172,000. So there's your 300 out the window. I don't care about a one-time ARPA fund infusion or whatever we're doing for 150. You're going to give away 300 and have 170 automatically, no matter. And if they're village employees, you got to pay benefits. Now we're not talking 170, we're talking 220 to 230. So in my estimation, that makes it a political move. Really, if that's what it is, it's not really a budget move. That's just my opinion. So I thought I'd bring that up. Since we're cutting rec department in 10% and we're cutting library 10%, then maybe we should just 10% cut everybody. And why is it fair that we're cutting some things that people like 10 and affecting services, and other people, we'll see. If there's not a 10% cut in almost every department, I'll be up here talking about it, because you know I will, because that's only fair. Now, you start somewhere, you end up in a different place, but the last thing I'll say is I heard some troubling things at the first COW meeting, which, yes, I sat through the whole thing. And I heard that we got this budget and that's pretty much where we're at and we're not really going to change it. And I said to myself, really? This village board in its entirety, all 9 of you, you can change whatever you want. You can add stuff here. You can take stuff away there. You don't have to rely on staff coming up with a budget and say, well, that's the best I can do. That's not your job. That's not representing the people in this village. You know that. I mean, I do feel like sometimes I'm lecturing, but I'm just bringing up common sense and logic. I mean, honestly. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input? Anybody online? All right, if we are complete with that portion of the budget, or I'm sorry, the budget, because he just said budget, sorry, agenda. We'll go to new business, start with new business item A. Hans Dawson, agent for Moraine Development LLC, property owner located at West 218, North 11546, Appleton Avenue. Applications to create an RS2 single-family residential plan development district pursuant to section 17.15 and 17.27 of the zoning code, and to rezone from the M4 mineral extraction, A2 agricultural, and RS2 single-family zoning districts into the newly created RS2 PDD zoning district, and a certified survey map to combine 6 parcels, all for the purpose of restoring and redeveloping the formal gravel mining property into a 126.5 acre private conservation area and 15-lot single-family residential development.
President Walter, may I take an item out of order?
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to move item B up ahead of this one because I think this one could be a lengthy discussion.
Okay. The motion is made by trustee Pieper to move item B, seconded by trustee Rick Miller. Any discussion on that motion? Trustee Chan Miller?
I have a point of order. You kind of skipped over consent agenda.
Oh, I did, because there's nothing on it, but I did, because I did skip over it.
Excuse me, don't we have minutes usually?
There are not any minutes.
We don't have any minute.
Minutes for tonight from the last meeting, not done those yet.
So they're being postponed?
Correct. Being postponed to the next meeting.
Okay, that's highly unusual. Thank you for letting me know.
Back to the motion. Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. That then brings us to new business. Item B, original alcohol beverage retail license application for Ivy's at Main, which is a change in LLC.
Move approval as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Peeper.
I recuse myself from voting on this one.
Okay, thank you for letting us know that. Trustee Baum.
No, I was letting her know that I made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Any discussion? No discussion? Then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries with one recusal by trustee Peeper. All right, then that then brings us back to item A, which is the Hans Dawson, agent for Moraine Park LLC. To give us more information and background on this new business item, I'll turn the meeting over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzlaff.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you indicated, we have applications to create a RS2 Single Family Plan Development District, rezone land from the M4, A2, and RS2 Single Family zoning districts into the newly created RS2 Plan Development District, and a certified survey map to combine 6 parcels into one, all of which are included in the area shown on the screen bounded by the red solid line. As many of you are aware, the proposal includes these applications as prerequisites to restore and redevelop the 126-acre former gravel pit property, formerly operated by James Cape and Sons, and before them, Murgott Sand and Gravel. The proposal includes creating some upland restoration areas for future residential development, shoreline restoration around the central Quarry Lake with a gravel path and around the lake and the property. A woodland restoration west of the Quarry Lake with landscape berms along Appleton Avenue, and 2 access roads into portions of the property, one each to a residential area, one north of the lake and one south of the lake. North of the lake, an area set aside for 12 single-family dwelling units, and on the south side for 3 single-family dwelling units, each to be served by a community on-site sanitary sewer system. There will be no municipal water or sewer serving the development. The certified survey map, again, there are 6 parcels that comprise the 126 acres. The proposal is simply to combine them into one, and we have a certified survey map that has been reviewed and recommended for approval by the Plan Commission. The Plan Development District, the specifics include creating a new zoning district for the property with the RS2 Single Family District as the underlying or base zoning district from which we would then develop additional and specific conditions and restrictions governing and guiding future development. Rezoning the land into that new district, and as shown on this image here, rezoning 98 acres from M4, the mineral extraction district, the purple, to the new zoning district, 23.5 acres from A2, the green, and 5 acres from the RS2 single family into the new planned development district. Again, the proposed master plan. The comments from staff, the proposed residential development is consistent with the 2050 plan provisions for the Meeker Hill neighborhood. Under the Meeker Hill neighborhood future land use parameters, an allowable density of 1 dwelling unit per 3 acres with a conservation design is allowable, or 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres if a traditional subdivision is proposed. In this case, given the characteristics of the property, it's most suitable for a conservation design plan development versus a traditional subdivision development. And the proposal with just 15 dwelling units over 126 acres, the gross density is 1 dwelling unit per 8.4 acres, much less dense than what's allowed under the parameters for the Meeker Hill neighborhood. Now, one of the issues that has received a lot of attention since the Plan Commission reviewed and formally passed along recommendations for this proposal concerned the relationship of this property to the village's comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, the CORP as it's known. In the CORP, on a service area map as shown on the screen, there are stars, if you will, scattered throughout the village in strategic areas that are deemed to be underserved or not served at all by an existing park. And the intention of the stars is to designate in a generalized way when and if future parks are considered, those areas with the stars should be looked at for future park facilities, or as stated in the plan, park or shared open space area. Given that designation, the Plan Commission, one of the things they recommended was that the developer and the Park Commission get together before the village board takes action on the ordinance creating the new zoning district to discuss the plan, what the Park Commission foresees as the future for parks, open space areas in this particular area, and if the two parties can agree, work out some arrangement concerning the provision, the acquisition, the dedication, if you will, for land for that future park or open space purpose. The Park Commission has met twice, back on September 20th and again on September 28th. And as well as discussions with staff, the property owner has made it clear that they have no intention of setting aside or dedicating or developing any part of their property for a public park or open space purpose. Their intention is to create a 126-acre private conservation area and small residential neighborhood. And with that, the Park Commission on the 28th adopted a recommendation that the village accept the developer's offer for a financial contribution or payment in lieu of construction of the equivalent of a trail along Appleton Avenue in an amount of, I believe it was 80,000 and some change. That was the recommendation of the Park Commission from last week, and that is something that the village needs to consider this evening as well. A couple other things to add before we go on. In the village's subdivision code, there is a provision that allows the village to require the construction of sidewalks if such are shown on a plan, a master plan. Neither the village's sidewalk, bikeway and trail network in the CORP nor in the Washington County Bikeway and Trail Plan indicates any provision or need for a sidewalk along Appleton Avenue. And then another point, if you recall, our plan development district regulations speak of a higher level of amenities that are provided as part of a PDD that include, features that would benefit the community as a whole and not just necessarily the development and the residents or patrons of a particular development. And so in this case, the developer, the property owner, has offered that $80,000 as a financial contribution to effectively satisfy the higher amenity, the benefit that would go towards the village, as well as dealing with the issue of sidewalks and/or the park and open space dedication. And so the Park Commission has, after much discussion, has agreed to recommend to the village board that we accept that financial contribution in lieu of constructing or equivalent in cost to the construction of a trail across the property along Appleton Avenue. Some last comments. Public Works had some minor corrections to the CSM that have since been made. The fire department is asking that dry hydrant connection be required in the quarry lake. And all of those things would be rolled into the final conditions and restrictions resolution that will be presented to the board at an upcoming meeting. At this point, what is recommended and the action that needs to be taken is on the certified survey map to approve the combination of the 6 parcels. The rezoning to approve the creation of the RS2 PDD for the 126 acre marine development property. Rezoning the 3 portions of that property from the M4, the A2, and the RS2 into the newly created RS2 PDD zoning district. And again, we'll be finalizing the conditions and restrictions resolution, hopefully by the next village board meeting for your consideration. Hans Dawson, on behalf of the property owner, is here this evening. I know, Hans, you have some things you wanted to discuss with the board. So with that, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dawson.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good evening. Hans Dawson, 1501 Sleepy Hollow, Ridgefield. I don't know if that's common under this, but you have it, Donna. Jeff did a pretty good summary that pretty much brings us to date. A couple of thoughts. First of all, I super appreciate the village staff working with Gil and Jeff and Steve have been pretty productive, and that's been a good relationship. And then I appreciate several board members reaching out on this topic, which has been good. The only thing this is pretty novel for me. So in our business, kind of coming before you guys and looking for rezonings and different land uses is pretty common in what we do. So, getting pushback and stuff like that, that's not something we're not unused to. What's novel in this situation is the sort of our deal, right? So the PDD has some benefits to us. It allows us to sort of put our home cluster sort of in one area where it makes geotechnical sense, because the site, as big as it is, the available land for building sites is actually quite constrained. It's pretty much just those peach colors. The rest is relatively unstable geotechnically, and we're going to be stabilizing that, but it's not really good for building pads. So that's a value to us, which we certainly appreciate. And then the other discussion with the park department really was triggered by this court plan, which was referenced up there before, which was that purple star. And that was the other thing that kind of got the ball rolling on the discussion with Gil and then the park department on the future use for the land. And when I was trying to think of like a win-win, that's when I got some quotes on what it would cost to install a sidewalk along the whole property. That's what came up with that $80,000 number. And I thought that would be a nice win-win where we could make a donation to the village. And then in exchange for that, we would be able to do this PDD overlay, which was certainly a value to us. And then remove the star and the court plan that triggered the whole discussion. So, which I kind of felt was, if we're sort of doing that swap, that seemed fair. And again, and I've had a number of discussions with staff. The thing that's I'm wrestling with is this concept that I have a concern that we're going to put all this money into a development for our home for our family. My sister, my mom, and myself, and then hopefully our kids someday. And I realize the process would probably not happen, but just that it might not be ours. I'm struggling with that still. And I guess I'll be frank, even coming out of the last park commission meeting, the fact that the park commission accepted our donation, but would not go through the procedure to remove the star and had a chance to contemplate that, it does create some concern. I mean, it's a significant investment, and I guess I'm looking for confidence that we can have our land going forward. And yeah, and I realize, and again, the village attorney is here. I realize the star has no legal impact. It's just that it's to me, it's a symbol that the village understands that this won't be a park, so I can feel comfortable to invest in the land to reclaim it. Because that picture you saw, if you could be willing to go back to, I don't know who's driving the bus there, but one more, that one. Yeah, it's a pretty good picture. I mean, it looks small on this map, but those are like 40 to 60 foot slopes that we have to, I mean, it's a massive amount of earth moving, hundreds of thousands of yards. And it's a pretty bare. That's about what it looks like now. It's a pretty bare site. So we've got a lot of planting expense. This is not covering it back up with topsoil that's available on the site. It's we had to get a specialist who specializes in how to revegetate these barren situations that are all sand and gravel. Because in our part of the state, it's not common, right? So it's different seed blends to get back to prairie and back to original seed. So it is a bit of an investment to stabilize a site like this and to get it back to beautiful. And I might be overreacting to it. I'm just looking for some confidence that we'll have this to, if our family's going to invest in it, we're hoping to have some confidence that our family will be able to enjoy it and that that it wouldn't be part of a future park plan. So.
Questions? No? All right. Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Appreciate that. Trustee Pieper?
Yeah, has the DNR been involved at all regarding the fill of the quarry?
So Phil, that could happen, or Phil, that has happened?
Both.
Okay, so clean fill sites are governed by a DNR law called NR 500. And it's sort of like a set of guidelines that you have to follow for any fill site. So anything that we've done, that we've taken in, has followed those restrictions.
Okay. So you live in Richfield, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Richfield pit.
The one that we own? Or
No,
Phoenix?
the pit in Richfield that Richfield has entered into probably a dozen or more lawsuits against the homeowner there, the landowner there.
Scenic Road?
Yes.
Yeah, on Scenic Road, yeah.
Yes. And she has endured extreme harassment and lawsuits and attorney fees, and the village of Richfield and her have been going back and forth still. I think it's been maybe 6, 7, 8 years now. Bill, I'm sure you're more familiar with it than I am, but that was an absolute nightmare and still is, continues to be for Richfield. And my fear is that that could also happen in the village of Germantown, and I would not want to see that. I do not support this.
Trustee Jan Miller?
My question is for Jeff. I have some questions for Jeff. Jeff, you included page 27 of, I don't know how many pages there are to the current corp plan, and that's specifically for Park and Recreation. I was not able to make the Park and Recreation meeting last week. So my question is, in our packet, we got page 27, which has various purple stars throughout the village of Germantown. I know for a fact that one of these purple stars is in other private property. So this clearly says, as the map shows, the majority of neighborhoods in yellow are served by an existing park. Those areas not served by a public park should look to include new parkland, private shared open space, or have planned trail connections that would connect residential areas to existing parks, rivers, or corridors, or river corridors. So this is just to identify potential future park or shared open space. Are any of the purple stars on this map, page 27, the village of Germantown's property?
Not to my knowledge, but Gil, if you want to come forward and jump in on the conversation, that'd be great. But I don't believe that any of the purple stars are on property owned by the village. My understanding, frankly, is that the assignment or the location of the purple stars is a general representation of those areas in the village that are under or not served at all by a public park.
So it's a wish list. As I look at this, it would be close to a wish list. Yes, I'm getting a nod.
Fair.
So Moraine Development has come forward owning this property and showing us a plan that is within the Meeker Hill specifications that we have in our current 2050 plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so currently this map that Moraine Development, which was done by R.A. Smith, we do business with R.A. Smith. This is all put together properly based on our 2050 plan. I don't see a problem with this, and I think it's a great idea. Moraine Development has come forward and is developing and bringing the land back to prairie plantings. There's nothing more ecological better that I can think of, and I'm a tree hugger, okay? So if it's his property, I think that it's an excellent plan. I don't find any fault with it. But I would agree with Trustee Pieper and the developer, Hans, that having a purple star on this core plan, which can be changed, could easily be removed. I think that the investment that Moraine Development is putting forward is enough. And the compensation for monies toward future trails would be helpful
And appreciate it.
and appreciated, greatly appreciated. And there's nothing in this plan, in our 2050 plan, or that I'm aware of, or the Park Corp plan that says there has to be compensation. So I think this is I think this is very generous. And I think that we should accept this plan.
Could I respond a little bit to your comment? I think maybe some clarity on our plans would maybe put you at ease. So our plan as proposed would bring no additional fill into the site. So what we would do is it's a balanced cut fill design, meaning wherever we would shape down a site, we would then fill in within the site. So there'd be our plan is to bring in basically no truck traffic onto the site other than supplies. So where there's a steep gravel hill, we would if it's like this, we'll cut it back to this, and with that wedge, we'll tuck it somewhere else to smooth it out. So what you're describing is, and we have a business like that as well, is a commercial fill site where you're taking in trucks. That's different than what we're proposing. We're proposing to reshape the land as is, meaning with the volumes on site. That's what we're proposing. So I think, does that maybe allay some of your concerns?
Trustee Pieper?
Yes, that does relieve a lot of my concerns regarding it being like the scenic pit in Richfield and all the problems that have occurred there. That isn't my only concern, though. My other concern is the purple star. That we had designated that for possible future public use. It's a gorgeous quarry. It really is. And I see extreme potential for it. But I would rather that everybody in the village would be able to use it instead of just 15 families and have it being private. We don't have many areas like this in the village, and I would rather all of the residents be able to enjoy it. I'm sorry. I do feel your plight, and I do know that this is your passion, and I don't mean anything against you or your family. This is just.
Yeah, and I have a lot of empathy for that. And that's kind of the rub in my own mind is I don't disagree, but then that kind of removes our incentive to invest in the land, right? So we're about 300 grand in the engineering and design on this property. We'll be millions into redevelopment. And my thought, and again, that's cool, right? But that we sort of remove all incentive to do that if we're going to share it. Because our view, and we've been going back and forth on different ways to think about this, because it's kind of a novel thing. I've never done something like this before. For a lot less money, we can buy a home on an existing lake that's already public, right? So the only reason for us to spend this amount of money on it is its privacy.
So what would you be open to possibly making, a portion of it public access?
Right. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about that, and we wouldn't.
No.
Yeah, and it's just because of that. So we use this now as kind of like a little swimming hole, fishing hole for our family. And about every other time, we're calling the cops or kicking somebody out or being vandalized. We had some equipment vandalized literally yesterday.
How many acres is the water?
Pardon?
How many acres is the?
The water's about 32.
Okay, so it's a considerable.
It's a nice lake.
Yes, and I understand. I live right across the street and I live on a pond myself and we're constantly kicking people out. But
Yeah.
we also, there's 80 or 90 lots in that subdivision. I mean, I respect you and understand everything that you said.
Yeah.
But I gotta be greedy for the other residents in the village. Sorry.
Yeah.
Trustee Ball.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the certified survey map as presented to combine the 6 parcels owned by Moraine Development with the 3 conditions.
I'll second.
Motion made by trustee Baum, second by trustee Jan Miller to approve the certified survey map, which is number 3. We're going to break it out. So any discussion on that motion to approve? Just to number 3, right? Or are you going for all 3, the PPD, the rezoning, and the certified survey? You said just certified survey map.
Yes, I was going to do each one individually because Jeff has 3 and I only see 2 here, so I'm going to need help with the third one.
The third one is the certified survey map. The second one is the rezoning, and the first one is the creation of the PPD.
Okay. Then I'll do all 3 separate.
Okay, then we'll start with the certified survey map,
Yes.
which is number 3. Any discussion on that motion to approve the certified survey map, which combines all the parcels? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Who second that?
I did.
Trustee Jan Miller, second that.
Thank you.
1 opposed, trustee Pieper is opposed.
Make a motion to approve the rezoning of the RS2 PDD for the 126 acres as presented with the 5 conditions.
Suggest maybe you do the first one first, create the district. then
Okay,
zoning.
then I will make a motion to create the RS2 zoning district as presented
To the PPD,
to the PPD.
Residential Plan Development District. Motion made by trustee Baum, seconded.
Second.
Trustee Chan Miller is our second. Any discussion on that motion? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
1 opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning of the RS2 PDD of the 126 acres as presented with the 5 conditions.
Motion made by trustee Baum, seconded by
Second.
trustee Rick Miller. Discussion on that motion to approve. Trustee Baum.
I would like, is this the time to put in here a condition number 6 to remove the star? Or is that a separate motion?
Since that would be a separate motion,
Separate?
I believe, because it pertains to another document.
Right,
Okay.
A would be a separate motion, B that is not on the agenda for the evening, so that I believe is an action you wouldn't be able to take this evening. We would need to notice that properly, that we're looking to remove that star from that plan.
Would that be something we deal with at Plan Commission? Or does it have to be the village board?
As I recall, without looking at the code, I think it's all at Park Commission.
Park and Rec.
who handles
It sounded
that.
like they discussed it at the last meeting and chose not to act. From what Mr. Dawson was saying.
Right, it starts there and then whatever their recommendation is ultimately would come here.
And it
but
needs to
it's-
be put on an agenda then.
Right.
Okay. All right. So no, not tonight, but it can be for a future village board meeting, put on the agenda.
Okay, I'll talk to somebody later about doing that, getting
Yeah.
that on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
fine.
Trustee Jan Miller.
I wanted to know how we could get it on a
Oh,
later
okay.
agenda. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Any further discussion? The only thing I'd like to say to Mr. Dawson is, first, thank you for taking what could be considered a land that when you drive by has a scar on the land. And it's been there for a while. Since I've been on the board, it's been there and discussed as to what could be done with it or what should be done with it. And I appreciate you looking at it as an opportunity for your family for a personal retreat. And I respect that as a private landowner. That you have that right to do so, and would fully develop it to whatever your needs are for your generation and future generations to enjoy. And I hopefully believe that you should be able to do that, and look forward to you accomplishing your task in doing that. So thank you for that, and enjoy very much, because it is a nice piece of property, and I think that it'll do everything that you want it to do. So thank you. Thanks. Other
Mr. President?
discussion? Jeff?
I think it might be appropriate at this point to include some language in the conditions and restrictions resolution addressing the financial contribution.
As an additional condition of?
Brian, what do you think?
I'd like to comment.
Just so it's in the record as a,
Yeah.
No.
okay. Ryan, any thoughts?
Well, I mean,
before recognize
certainly
you?
the immediate thought is that the whole discussion was that the specific terms of the PDD were going to be coming forward at the next meeting.
Yep.
And so I think that that's probably where that comes from. And I would say that the motion that was made to incorporate the conditions and the discussion that had otherwise been through the process probably includes that. So I don't know that it's necessary to specifically call that out at this point, but you certainly could.
But it's already part of the language, or are you saying it's going to be part of the agreement?
We will bring back to you, the village board, for consideration and adoption, the specific conditions and restrictions for the PDD.
Okay.
And like I said, that'll likely be at the next meeting.
And that'll be part of that
We will,
document?
yes,
Okay.
we'll work that in.
All right. Trustee Jan Miller.
Yeah, I was going to mention that we don't have any data about the amount. Unless you can point out the page it's on. I didn't see it. Was it in there? And maybe it can be included with the Purple Star as well
Yeah, for the next meeting.
for the
Yes.
next meeting. That's
Mhm,
fine.
As recognition of and showing it for the record.
It will be, this discussion is in the minutes as well.
Correct, but it'll be more official based on the agreement that will come forward.
Correct.
Good.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to approve? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Dawson, for coming tonight. We
Thanks for your
appreciate
time,
it.
guys. I realize this is a unique situation, but thanks for thinking it and appreciate your thoughts too. So, all right, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good evening.
Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item under new business is item C, which is the renewal of the Sun Life stopless contract. Stopless? Is that what it
Loss.
says? Stop loss. Okay, stop loss contract. Sorry, stop list, stop loss.
Confused.
Stop loss contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the stop loss from Sun Life.
Motion made by trustee Rick Miller, seconded by trustee Baum. Discussion on the motion. Trustee Peeper.
What exactly is this?
So this is insurance that the village. Okay, this is insurance that the village carries. This is just a renewable contract that we have every year. It's an additional that places that are self-funded insurances carry.
Okay.
So that if the claim gets to a certain point, we have some
Sure.
protection.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to approve. No further discussion? We do roll call on that? Roll call vote, please. Yeah, use your microphone. I think you got one right. Albert, there you go.
There it goes. Trustee Baum. And trustee Kaminsky is not present. Trustee Hetson,
Hi.
Trustee Nyrider?
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper?
Aye.
And Dean Walter, President, please.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on a new business is item D, the 2023 Road Program Change Order Number 1.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion or input? Trustee Pieper?
Just a quick question. None of this is of these streets, or we don't share any of this with the town of Germantown, is that correct? Okay,
Come to the podium? That would be great.
because I do believe at one point we paved 100 feet or so of the town of Germantown's street.
I believe what you may be referring to is last year we did pave a portion of Maple Road that is geographically located within the town of Germantown. However, we do have maintenance responsibility over that section of the roadway.
Okay. So this is 100% village, not town?
Correct.
Okay.
Trustee Jan Miller?
Is there any urgency to pass this tonight?
Yes, I believe there is. Our development handbook does specify that the surface layer of asphalt should not be applied after October 15th. Of course, that can be extended some by a engineer, a licensed engineer, which we will be coming on board by the 9th. However, the next village board meeting, especially after the Public Works and Highways Committee meeting, is I believe the 16th. Which would put a bit of a damper on the situation, as well as the fact that our contractor, Payne and Dolan, is now looking, to kind of wrap up their year, as it were. So if we want to get this road on the schedule, we kind of got to bring it to them sooner rather than later.
How does, this isn't the first time that this has come forward. I mean, this isn't the first time. Is this this is the first time I'm seeing it. So, is it basically the overage, the cost overage, or is it a new piece of pavement?
Yeah, so this is the new top layer of asphalt that is being paved on an existing road. So when it was installed, essentially roads are installed in 2 layers of asphalt, a binder course and a surface course. The binder course is installed to create a roadway surface for, especially in this area, construction traffic and things like that to use. Now that a lot of that development in the area is kind of winding down on that end of the roadway, we believe it is suitable to apply that second and final layer of asphalt to create the final road surface.
And are you an engineer?
I am not, but our contract documents do spell out that the signator on these sort of documents can be either the project engineer itself or a representative of the Village of Germantown Engineering Department.
Why wasn't the engineer from PAA signing this?
So really, I mean, what you're dealing with here is a contract document. The contract document itself is about that thick. It's got all of the terms and conditions for the whole program. That contract document calls for an engineer within the documents. That engineer, by default, effectively becomes the owner's, meaning the village's contract representative. That is the one that is the contact point, basically, for the contractor, so that they're not, calling and bugging each one of you individually, that kind of stuff. Certainly, my recollection, without pulling out that big document because I don't have it with me, is that the standard document contemplates that the engineer would be an engineer. That there are some things that the engineer would be able to do that would require specialized training, knowledge, and experience, basically to act as an engineer. To process a change order, I don't think is one of those particular items. This is just moving forward. I can't necessarily, I guess, speak, don't want to put words in folks' mouth, but just knowing what has taken place, the typical process that we would use for these in light of Larry's retirement is that our contract engineers, depending on which program, R.A. Smith, Rickard and Milky, or whoever, are consulted, and then they work with both Bruce and the other folks that remain within the department to address the various conditions. But the engineer under the contract document is really just the contact point. And as long as it's not calling for specific engineering knowledge or to act as an engineer, I think it's probably fine and appropriate under the contract documents that it is not a formal engineer acting in that role.
Okay, in lieu of the fact that we just hired an engineer, did you make the motion,
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Can I amend the motion?
Yes.
My amendment is to have our new engineer on October 9th review this document, sign it, and move them forward, RA, or whoever is doing this.
Even if it means the delay would cause it not.
Payne
to
and
be-
Dolan. Pardon me?
Even if it means that week delay would mean that it may not get accomplished,
Why would it not get accomplished?
because you only have a window of opportunity for asphalting to be done, which is up until about October 15th. And
Next Monday is the
asphalt plants
9th.
usually start shutting down at that point.
Right. I'm asking it to be signed by the engineer that we just hired on a week from today,
Okay.
October 9th.
All right, we have a motion to amend. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made by trustee Jan Miller, seconded by trustee Nyrider.
Is it just, I guess for clarity, is the motion that you're fine proceeding as long as the engineer signs off on it, or that you want the engineer to sign off on it and then come back to the board at that point?
Just
Just at the, as far as the second, just that the engineer signs off on it.
Yes,
Come back again.
doesn't have to come back.
Can they do that?
Yes, it does.
It does.
Most blacktopping, sometimes they go to Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
as far as doing blacktopping. So,
Years ago, when it snowed on.
yeah, I know, I guess it depends on the weather a lot, but nothing against Jake here, but I just feel a little more comfortable seeing an engineer's signature on this thing. I don't want to put you in a spot.
Further discussion on a motion to
I
amend.
guess I hate to be a stickler, but I thought I heard two different answers, that the maker of the motion wanted it to come back, and the second was okay with it just
Not-
being approved and just
Just
having them
Just
sign off.
approve it.
Does that come back here?
So your motion is to have the new village engineer look it over and sign off on it when they are starting on October 9th.
Correct.
We can proceed with the project.
Well, if Jake, yeah, I mean, if, I think you can,
Can't proceed until it's signed off on.
I mean,
then we proceed after the 9th.
Oh,
Does that make sense,
And-
Bill? Yeah.
fine. Trustee
week.
Hudson.
Who can sign off on these things?
the contract documents require that the owner's representative be the one that brings it forward and says, hey, to the owner, hey, you should go and do this contract. That's the signature of the engineer under the contract documents.
So is the hangup the title engineer?
That
Let's
is.
just draw a line through the word engineer and get the project done. Why can't we do that?
That was effectively my suggestion, that in my opinion, this is not engineering work. He's not acting as an engineer. He's just processing paperwork at this point.
Yeah, to
But
me, it sounds like the title is the incorrect title. We're hung up on what could be a typo.
Right here, engineer.
Yeah.
I understand that. I don't think that's meant to be there is what I'm saying.
It's a form.
It's a boilerplate.
It's meant
It's a
to be
form.
there.
And again, it's a form because it's based on the contract documents that call that owner's representative the engineer, because that's typically who the owner's representative is. With that said, and I don't necessarily want to confuse anything, and I'm not sure whether or not he would be willing to tomorrow since it's not yet his official start date. But our engineer is coming in tomorrow to be part of the typical weekly staff meeting in preparation of getting, hitting the ground running on the 9th. We may be able to get him to sign it tomorrow, if he's comfortable with that.
Well, he's not an employee of the village tomorrow.
Trustee Hudson, you still have the floor.
I would like to make a motion to change the word engineer to village
You're making
government.
an amendment to the
Yes,
amendment?
that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
Yes. To village government representative.
Second.
Motion made to amend the amendment to change the word on the contract from engineer to,
Village government representative.
okay. The village government representative. It was a motion by trustee Hudson and a second by trustee Ball. Discussion on the motion to amend the amendment. Trustee Chan Miller.
Brian, where is Mr. PAA Bruce? Why can't he sign this?
So just as we talked about when we had the large discussion about whether or not Steve should be the individual that signs off on these types of things, typically we do not authorize our contract type representatives to be the ones to sign off on things for us. He is, while he's acting in that position, he is not technically a village employee, and that's not something that we typically would authorize our contracting services to do. Unless there was specific direction by this board to do that. That certainly would be an option that you could say, hey, you're going to authorize him to do it. But you're adding a step that in my opinion isn't necessary under the standard contract documents. But
Further discussion on the motion to amend the amendment. No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, raise your hands. 2 opposed, motion carries. Back to the motion, the amendment on the motion. Further discussion.
Clarification.
Clarification would be that you're removing that engineer and saying, as it was stated, a village, call it a village hall employee or village staff. And, but the amended motion is still asking for the engineer to sign off on it on October 9th. That's the amendment. And that the project waits until then, until he signs it off as an official employee of the village on October 9th, before the project proceeds.
So if I vote no to having that signed off on the 9th, does the signature of the village employee override? Or do I vote yes to have the motion move forward so that the second amendment gets carried
so
forward?
the motion that we are going to vote on is the motion to amend the original motion to have a village government representative approve the request prior to commencing the work.
That's what it changes it to.
Okay.
If you're okay with that, then you would vote yes. If you
Thank you.
vote no, then we would go back to the original motion as not amended, meaning that it would be just the motion to approve as presented. Make
Which
sense?
it kind of does the same thing, doesn't it? Doesn't both do really accomplish the same thing? All right,
Slightly different, but yes.
back to the amendment. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
I think I want to say aye.
What? Say it again. We're on the amendment. for the motion.
Clarification, please.
I think we're all
So
confused.
Is the October 9th now null and void?
Amended that motion.
We amended the motion, right? So that's no longer part of this.
What's that? Yes, go ahead. Put your microphone on, please.
Done. Okay, so the original was amended. So the first motion was amended because it was approved as it was submitted. And then trustee Jan Miller spoke about the engineer. And then trustee Hudson said scratch engineer. So that a motion was amended. The second was to amend to have the engineer that comes in on October the 9th to sign it. So then that was the motion to amend, and that was first and seconded. The third motion to amend the second motion to have the engineer do it on October 9th was then changed to amend the paperwork to say village government representative. So that is the motion that we are on currently, is to say village government representative. That was by trustee Hudson and seconded by Baum. That was the carried, and it was done. It was it was approved. So it carried, and there was no reason to do the roll call vote at that time. So that's where we're at.
So are we on the amendment or are we on the original motion?
No, but you're on the First Amendment at this point.
Right.
And as amended, that motion is to have a village government representative approve the request prior to commencing the work before August 9th, or on or before October 9th, sorry.
Are we clear?
So
That's why we don't amend amendments.
Right.
Because we're stuck with the October 9th with all this.
Before October 9th, yeah.
Before October. So
Trustee Hudson.
So if somebody votes yes, can Jacob sign the form and it moves forward tomorrow? Thank you. I can even restate the question.
No, I understand the question. I think the technical answer by the motion is yes. He is a village government representative. Whether or not that is the intent of that, I can't speak to, but the language as approved would give him the ability to sign off on it.
Thank you.
And they can start tomorrow.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
If we vote yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Set?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed, two opposed? Two. Trustee Nyrider, trustee Jan Miller opposed. Motion carries. Back to the motion as amended. Further discussion. Roll call. For money?
Repeat.
We're gonna do roll call vote if there's no further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Baum,
I believe I.
What did you say?
I believe I.
Oh, aye. I thought.
trustee Hudson,
I'm pretty sure aye.
Oh, stop it.
trustee Nyrider, trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
No.
trustee Jillian Pieper,
Pretty sure, I mean, aye.
Aye.
I'm pretty sure as have it.
village president Walter.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item under new business is a closed
point of
session for items E and F. Item E is agreement between the Village of Germantown and the Germantown Municipal Employees Union Local 730, an affiliate of the Labor Association of Wisconsin, Inc. The village board may go into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85 subsection 1 subparagraph E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then may re-enter into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate. And item F, which is village official performance, the village board may go into a closed session as per Wisconsin statutes 19.85, subsection 1, subparagraph F, for the purpose of considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against a specific person, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations, and then may re-enter into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate.
Motion to go into closed session for item E and item F with the staff of village attorney and Aaron staying here.
And Aaron Hearn,
Yes.
okay, motion made.
And letting her go home.
Donna gets to go home. Motion made by trustee Pieper, seconded by trustee Baum. Any discussion on the motion to approve, to go into closed session for items E and F? No discussion, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Baum, trustee Hudson, trustee Nyrither, trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
trustee Jolene Pieper, and village president Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. A couple minutes before we go into closed session, please turn off your microphones.